At the end of this lesson, you will be able to recognize when direct speech is being used. You will know the difference between direct and indirect speech. You will be able to punctuate direct speech correctly. You will be able to teach your students to recognize direct speech. You will also be able to teach your students the correct usage of inverted commas and punctuation in direct speech. Used when we want to relay the exact words spoken by someone.
We always use inverted commas or quotation marks to show direct speech.
For example, direct speech is also called quoted speech. Indirect speech does not have to be word for word and can be paraphrased. The tense usually changes in indirect speech because we are talking about what someone has already said.
We do not use any inverted commas in indirect speech.
There are a few points to remember when writing direct speech. Let's look at this sentence. We put inverted commas or speech marks around the words that are actually being spoken. Always capitalize the first letter inside the speech marks. Words like said, tells, shouts, asked, etc. are all reporting verbs and they tell us how something is being said. There will generally be a speaker whenever we use direct speech. Sometimes there can be a speaker as well as the person being spoken to. The sentence inside the inverted commas always has punctuation within the inverted commas. Here, you can see a comma is used.
But if a question is being asked, you would use a question mark. If something is being said with a lot of emotion, you would use an exclamation mark.
Direct speech can also be written like this. Notice here that the speaker and reporting verb is at the start of the sentence. In such cases, you will put a comma before the inverted commas. Whenever the direct speech comes after the reporting verb and speaker, you always use an end mark, such as a full stop, a question mark, or an exclamation mark. You will not put a comma. Take a look at the table. These are some of the common reporting verbs. There are several other reporting verbs. Look at the following examples. Explain the rules of direct speech to your students by writing a sentence on the board and adding the correct punctuation one by one with colored chalk.
We use speech marks or inverted commas to show what someone is saying. These are the words being spoken, so we put the speech marks around them. We always start the speech with a capital letter. We always put a comma, a full stop, or a question mark or an exclamation mark at the end of the speech inside the speech marks.
Write several examples on the board using questions and exclamations as well as statements. Ask students to come to the board and punctuate on the board using colored chalk. Make giant speech marks using cardboard and paint them a bright color. Write a list of sentences on the board and ask students to come and stick the speech marks on the sentence where they see fit.
Who can take these speech marks and put them in the right place for the first sentence?
I can.
Does this look right? Yes, good job.
You can also make question marks, commas, exclamation marks, and full stops out of cardboard and make the exercise a little harder by asking students to place all the punctuation on the board. If there is a mistake, try and get another student to come to the board and fix it. Introduce children to reporting verbs, but do not use this term. Just say words like said and asked tell you how something is said. Point out different words by reading a text and underline these words. Explain the difference between ask, answer, shout, whisper, etc. Ask two children to come to the front of the class. One of them has to say a simple sentence in English, and the other child must write it on the board using the correct punctuation for direct speech. You can help with spellings and vocabulary.
Amal, make a sentence about anything.
I like fruits.
Now Zain, you have to write down what Amal said on the board using speech marks. Zain, your turn to say something.
I like chips and ice cream.
Amal, can you write that on the board like I just explained?
You may have to demonstrate a couple of times, but later encourage your students to come up in pairs and do this activity. It is good practice for speaking, listening, and writing.